All right. Welcome in. Happy birthday, John. Shout out. You're not going to
Happy birthday, Val. He will never listen to this, but
No.
happy birthday, honey.
Valentine's Day baby. I don't know
Yeah,
if I registered that.
it's a joy. It's a real.
Well,
it's a real
because then
pleasure.
you don't get the
No.
attention today that you
No,
deserve.
no, and it's fine because he gives me 364 other days of Valentine's
That's fair.
Day.
Oh, that's sweet. Go, John. Making all the
It's
rest of
very
us look
nice.
bad.
It's very nice. When we first met, it was July, and he asked if it would be okay to focus on his birthday on Valentine's Day instead of what every other girlfriend has asked him to do. And I was like, oh, sure, we're not going to be together in a few months. So that's fine. And it's 20 years in.
Yeah.
Like,
and you're like, man, I regret that decision.
I regret that. No, but he's fantastic. Actually, he apologized this morning because this is the first year I haven't gotten a Valentine's Day card. And he's like, oh man, I forgot.
Wow.
I was like, you forgot it was your birthday?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's okay. So I don't even, this is probably not going to come out for a few weeks, but I am not a Valentine's Day person. I just really don't particularly, enjoy it.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so that's just.
Feels a bit manufactured.
Yeah. But anyway, all right, so I'm going to tell a story right now that I just want to get off my chest, but I am going to be able to link it back in to where we're going here at the end.
Okay,
all
let
right,
me snuggle up. Hang on.
All right,
I'm ready.
So it snowed yesterday where we are.
Again.
Yeah, again. And so yesterday was also trash day for our house, for our neighborhood. So I waited. I didn't last night or 2 nights ago put them out because I wanted to give the plow space to get through. And then I put them out in the morning after, while it was still kind of snowing, but I kind of had to put them out there. And then what ends up happening is, right, the trash people come by, they throw it away, and then they just kind of chuck your barrels wherever they dang well please after that. Right. And there's obviously not a ton of space because we've had an asinine amount of snow.
We're getting more tomorrow.
And there's no room to put the trash bins. And so they're like, but they're in my driveway, basically. They're in the mouth of my driveway, but they're in my driveway. And I got a message last night. It was the first message I've ever gotten from this person, one of my neighbors. I've never gotten a message from this person. And she said, hey, Jeff, it's so-and-so from number whatever. Would you mind bringing in your trash bins? This is at like 7:00 last night. I just didn't bring them in immediately, effectively. Would you mind bringing in your trash bins? It's a little bit tricky with the snow and your bins for 2 cars to get by. Granted, there are 5 houses on my cul-de-sac. The amount of times that 2 cars pass in front of my house, I could count them on one hand in the years that I've lived here. But I was like, you know what? Yeah, I want everybody to be safe. And maybe the guys, I didn't register it when I was pulling in because I was pulling in with all of the kids.
Right.
I didn't register how far out into the road they were. So I was like, maybe they are out in the road and there isn't a lot of space. So I was like, yeah, no problem. Go out there. And I was a little bit like, all right, that's a little frustrating because it's like, one, this never happens. And also, it's currently trash day. Right. Like,
it's not like it was 3 days later.
No, it's currently trash day. And now, granted, I am not the best at bringing my trash cans in on trash day. Sometimes they stay out there for a little bit, but they stay out there in my grass. Right. They're like on my lawn. So you may not like to look at it, but it's not in the way of everybody. So I think it was really just she was tired of my trash bins didn't come in on the day of. But it's usually like I'm coming in with kids and I can't all right, you guys hang out in the car. Let me go get the trash bins. And then I forget it. It's 8:00 at night. So I go out there, though, to get the trash bins. They're 100% in my driveway. They are like the snow banks are further into the road than my trash bins. And I'm like, what the crap?
It's frustrating.
And it's like, yeah, I'll go get them. So I just messaged her back, right? I want it. Like there was the running through my head of like, kind of want to be petty and angry, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to do that because that doesn't seem. And I also almost made an excuse about it. I was like, oh, we were just coming back with the kids, so that's why I didn't grab them. But I was like, she doesn't deserve any explanations.
Mhm.
I don't need to give her an explanation. So I just said, I'll set whatever your name is, like when I brought him back. That was the end of the message. She said, thank you. I was like,
Mhm.
cool. My frustration with this was, and where we'll bring it back later, is just mind your own damn business.
Mhm.
That's
not hurting
that was my
anybody.
takeaway, right? Like, I don't really care, right? Like,
Yeah.
honestly, I don't care. And you're right. I should go get my trash. But like, that's an indicator. And Megan was like, and I was frustrated when I came in because I was like, this is just such an annoying, like, it was just like, it was a very passive aggressive way of handling it. I've never talked to this person ever in the entire time that we've lived here. We've lived here 3 years. I've never talked to her. Their dog has come over off leash. And like, my dog has lost his dang mind, and they're just like on the phone, casually walking over onto my front lawn when their puppy's having a conniption, and they're just like doing whatever. And I'm like, whatever, neighbors are neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Not a big deal. But it's like, why does it bother you? That's an indicator of what's happening in your life, not what's happening in my life.
Correct.
And your bad day does not make an urgent problem for me.
Oh, I need to write that down. Put it on a sign.
Your bad mood does not make, right? So the common phrase is like, your lack of planning does not constitute an emergency for me.
I
right?
have said that.
But this is like, your bad day does not mean that my day has to be then derailed.
Right.
Because that's what it was. Like, there's no way that you're not having a good day, or that you're having a good day and you send that message.
Right.
There's just no way that is. But it's like, I'm going to try to control something because my life is out of control.
Right.
And so we will revisit that later because it is associated to what we're going to talk about adjacently.
I love it.
So what we're going to talk about today, though, is identity. Because I saw a video the other day that was going around. And if I knew how to stitch things on social media, I would have stitched it. But I don't know how. So...
Nor do I. I'm old.
But I would have like done a response video to this. And I've done one of those, like 2 of those ever. And I've had to have people like basically make them for me. Where I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Tell me how to do this.
You're of the young. You're of the young generation.
I'm old at heart.
You're an old soul.
I'm an old soul. I should have been born in the 40s so that I grew up in the 50s and 60s.
That's accurate.
As a total side note, I'm a little bummed because a week from today is a conference I've gone to for the last, this is totally unrelated, the conference I've gone to for the last 2 years. I'm not going to go because just timing and stuff like that with other things we have going on. It just doesn't make sense for me to leave for a weekend right then. But one of my good friends, coaching friends, who's been on this podcast, John V, really proud of him. He's speaking. This is his first time, like big gig. It's a huge deal for him. And he and I sat together at the first one I went to 2 years ago. And I sat next to him and I said to him, because he's a couple more years into his career than I am. He's been an online trainer mentorship success coach for a couple of years as well. So he's like me in 2 years, essentially, if I continue to grow at the way that his kids are a little bit older, whatever it is. Not much older, but a little bit older. And so I sat there next to him and I was like, hey, would you ever want to do this? Like, speak at one of these things? And he's like, I'd think about it. Like, I don't know if I feel qualified to do it. And I told him, I was like, you've helped more actual coaches with their business than all but 2 people that are up there this weekend, right? Like you help a lot of coaches. Like, you deserve to be up there. There's no such thing as imposter syndrome for you. You deserve to be up there. And so he kind of set out over the last year to like, he had this desire to get better at public speaking. He took a course, he did a couple of things, made a couple connections, and so he got this gig to go do this. And so I wanted to be able to be there to support him, right? Full circle moment, whatever it is. And so I was trying to pull off the most baller move that I could and just do a round trip in a day to Dallas. And just like get up, take the first flight out, right? I'd work on the plane, go there, be there for the day, right? And then leave at, 8 p.m. and be back at midnight and then be here for the weekend. And so it was basically like I would just, the only thing that I would miss is from like 4 p.m. through bedtime, basically, with the kids, and then drop offs. And it was like, okay, like that feels doable. But then I looked at when it was, I had to wait to find out when he was speaking, because he could have been speaking today or Friday or Saturday. And when I found, by the time I found out he was speaking on Friday, the prices were like $900. And I was like, I love you, buddy, but I can't spend $900.
No, that's just irresponsible.
But I told him, I was like, but also, like, this wasn't about you. Like, let's just be clear. This was not because, you know, you're a friend and I wanted to support you. I didn't want to give him an ego. So I told him it was really about that I wanted to just roll in with my suede jacket and my Ray-Bans and my backpack and be like, yeah, I just flew in for the day.
Do you have a suede jacket?
I do have a suede jacket. I have a suede bomber jacket. It is elite.
I have never seen you in anything other than workout gear, so...
Well, yeah, it's elite. It's
elite.
That or my leather jacket. Yeah, I wear it on my dates. It's a perfect fall and spring jacket.
Oh, bomber.
I have style. You don't see it because all I wear is sweatpants and...
I believe it.
But
you pulled
once
Meg
upon
somehow.
a time. Yeah, well,
something must have impressed that woman.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
I'm searching.
Honestly, I really don't know. I really don't know. There's not a lot. That was a little bit when we were apart, though, for a year. That was like one of the things that like I became like kind of a hobby, was like fashion, like style and grooming and stuff like that. And I don't know if you knew this, but like I had very, very briefly, I had a men's image consulting business where I like I would help guys like get, you know, remake their wardrobes and stuff like that.
Wow. No, I had no idea.
Very, very briefly. It failed spectacularly.
Well, awesome. But you know what?
It was my first foray into entrepreneurship, which I didn't really realize at the time. But it was... so it was around that time when we were apart where I started to like learn how to dress better, because when we dated in college, I just wore jeans and a UNH sweatshirt and big Timberland boots all the time.
Oh, gosh.
And I had my shaved head. That's
like literally every guy in Durham.
No, 100%. Yeah.
In the 2000s.
It was like, everybody was like, I saw somebody who looked just like you. I'm like, you saw a dude who's 5'10", white guy, buzz cut, UNH sweatshirt, jeans, and Timberlands. I mean, there's 9,000 of us at UNH right now.
It's almost like saying they saw me. I'm like black leggings, Uggs, black North Face zip up.
Yep. Yeah. That was the vibe.
That was me. You're right.
That was the vibe. Yeah, that was me. So, no, but I was into style and clothes when I was teaching, and I have a whole wardrobe that I don't wear anymore.
Yeah,
it just
we can get back into it.
Yeah, at some point.
I have a whole wardrobe that has been bagged and donated because I'm like, I don't need my teacher clothes anymore, and they don't fit my butt anymore. So why hold on to them?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, back to whatever we were talking about.
Identity.
Hey, we're very good at this.
Yeah, just on it. Well, so
this is my identity.
Identity, right? It was stitching, right? So there was a guy who did a thing where he was like, how do you change? Effectively, he was like, how do you change? How do you become different? And it's like, you got to change your identity. This is kind of what he was doing. Like, you got to change your identity. You got to be like, I am the guy who does the thing, right? And so let's just take what we're talking about as a for instance. Like, hey, you want to get better at working out. You identify as a person who's working out, and he's not totally wrong, but he's also not totally right.
Yep.
And so this is where I said this on a couple episodes ago, right? But I'm gonna say it again, which is the quote from Alex Hormozy, which is, you don't get confident by shouting affirmations over and over in the mirror. You get confidence. Confidence is the byproduct of repeatedly doing what you said you were going to do, right? Having a stack of evidence that you are who you say that you are. Outwork yourself down, right? That's I paraphrase it, but that's the gist of it, right? Like, you have a stack of evidence that you are who you say you are, right? You keep the promises you make to yourself. And so he's got it backward a little bit, which is, you're right that you do need to change your identity. in order to get a different outcome, you need to change your identity, and you need to become the person who would do the thing. But you don't change your identity by just looking in the mirror and declaring, I am a fit person, right? Right. Like I am a worker outer, like the affirmation thing, like I am beginning this identity. Now you need to, the process is just like with goals, right? You can start with the goal, right? Hey, I want to get XYZ outcome. I want to lose weight. I want to be fit. I want to be strong. I want to be lean. I want to be toned, whatever the goal is. Start there. Okay. That's what you want. Understand why you want it, but start there with the what is it that I want? Then you think about who are the people that have that? Who are the people that have that outcome? What is it that what is their identity, right? So if somebody say, hey, that's a fit person, right? So like, again, I go back to the Zac Efron thing, right? The person or the Hugh Jackman thing, like ripped out of your mind, right? Or bodybuilders, right? The identity is like this, it's their whole identity. It's their whole personality is all they're doing. And so you have to ask, like, is that what I want my identity to be? Right. Or do I want my identity to be a little bit more balanced, whatever it is, right? But it's like, hey, who is the person who has that outcome? What is it about them? What are their attributes? What do they do? What do they have? All of these things. What does their day in the life look like? Right. But then what we have to do is go one step further. And we have to start doing what the person who would have the outcome would do. So if I want to be a fit person, right? I want to be fit. I want to have a fit body. I want to whatever it is. Then the identity, who I'm becoming, is a fit person, right? So what I want to have is a fit body, feel confident, right? So I'm going to become a fit person. What would a fit person do? They would probably go to the gym, right? They would probably walk more. They would probably eat some protein. They would probably meal plan. They would probably prioritize their sleep. They would probably make some intentional decisions surrounding their indulgences. Those are the things that a fit person would do. So I am not going to become a fit person by just saying I am a fit person and then hoping beyond hope that then translates into, all right, now I'm doing the thing because I said that I'm this person.
So equivalent of putting your textbook under your pillow instead of studying.
Yes.
Which I did.
Of course. Right? You're not going to get it by osmosis. You're not just going to you're not going to happen into it.
Right.
And I talked about this with a client earlier today, which is, and I've talked about this before, action precedes motivation, right? But it's more than that. Action leads to results, and results leads to motivation, which leads to further action. But the same thing is true here. We don't start, this is what I call the be, do, have cycle. All right. In order to have the outcome, right, we have to become the person. So the precursor to having the outcome is becoming the person who has that outcome. The precursor to becoming the person is doing the things that person would do. That's where we start. We do the things that person would do, then we become the person who has the outcome. And once we have that outcome, then we do more things to become more of the person who has more of the outcomes. That's the cycle that we go through. But we have to start with the actions. When you don't feel like that's who you are, that's where people get messed up, right? It's like, I'm not gonna lie to myself. You're not gonna be able to convince yourself, looking in the mirror, if you don't feel like a fit person, I'm a fit person. You're lying to yourself. And you're gonna know you're lying to yourself because you don't believe it.
Yeah.
You don't believe it. But you can tell yourself, I don't feel this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And at some point, I'm convinced that if I do it over and over again, I will become a fit person. You want to know how you become a consistent worker-outer? You consistently work out.
Consistently. It's like, it's pretty much
you just
in the
do
title.
It over and over again. And then at some point, it becomes part of your identity.
It's part of your routine.
It's part of who you are now.
Yeah.
So like I was talking with another client who was when we first started, like the main thing that like her first thing that we were like, hey, like let's focus on water, right? Let's do hydration. And so she's getting like, I forget, it's 80 or 100 ounces of water a day, right? Like great water. And it for a couple of weeks, like that was the struggle, like that was the challenge. It's like, all right, let's get some water in. And then a month or two later, we were talking and she was like, I had a rough day. Like I hit my water, like I always do, but my steps weren't great. And I was like, pause. Don't throw away that because 2 months ago, that was hard. And now it's something that you always do. It's part of your identity. It's who you are now, is somebody who drinks their water every day. That didn't happen by accident.
Right.
And it didn't happen because I snapped my fingers and I said, you are now a person who drinks their water. Abracadam, bazooba doo, bippity boppity boo. No, that wasn't what happened. You became somebody who drank their water by drinking their damn water.
Yeah.
Even when you didn't want to, even when it wasn't natural for you, you did it. And then you did it enough times that it became natural, instinct, like every habit, like brushing your teeth. So you start doing it when you don't feel like doing it, when it feels unnatural for you. That is the essential component to it. So then you become more of that person. So I'll tell this story. And I've told this when the very first time I ever put this on the internet, because I've talked about this several times. Because again, guys, there's only 7 things that I can talk about, right? It's just like, do it. Just do the thing. You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about here? Just different shades of gray. I don't know what I'm talking about. When we first had Levi, I didn't feel like a dad right away. And again, I've said this. I knew he was my son.
Of course.
But I didn't feel like a dad right away. And part of that might have been his birth story. I don't know if I've shared it on here. I'm not going to right now. I will right now. If you have trauma with birth stories, skip ahead like 3 minutes. It wasn't too bad, but it was not subtle, right? So he was born and he came out, cut the umbilical cord, put him on Megan. Cool. They bring him over to clean him off. And if you're in the hospital, so this is also the height of COVID, right? This is early April 2020, right? So we were 3 weeks into the world shutting down. So this is like scary time. Nobody's in the hospital with us. And this is our first time doing this, right? And so normally if you're in the hospital, if you've ever been there, right, like you buzz the nurse if you need anything, and the buzzes at the nurse's station, and you're like, hey, could we get whatever, right? And they're like, yep, we'll be there in a second, right? And they come in a minute or two with whatever it is. So that was kind of the thing we were under. So, right, he comes out, we see him, he's crying, cut the umbilical cord, put him on Megan, right? Then they take him over to clean him. I kiss Megan. We're like, oh my gosh, we did it. Like, you did it. Go, good job. All right. And then the nurse turns and looks at me and she says, press the button. And I blacked out on this. Like, I actually don't remember what she told me to say.
Okay.
But she's like, say this word, whatever it was. It was a keyword. And I buzzed it and I said the keyword. 5 nurses were in there within 10 seconds. Which is like, okay, that's alarming, right? Like, that's not the normal thing. And then he wasn't breathing on his own. And so then they take him to go to the nursery. And I basically am chasing them down the hallway because, I mean, he's 4 minutes old.
Right.
I don't know what he looks like. He could be anybody, right? And I have to leave Megan there, and she's by herself now because, there's, whatever. But, like, there's nobody else who knows. And I'm chasing them down the hallway, and like, it's like an hour.
Yeah.
Before we really understand, like, hey, is he going to be okay, right? They hook him up to a lot of stuff, whatever it is. And then we can't hold him. Megan's alone in the other room. And I'm trying to, like, communicate to her that he's going to be okay, but I don't know. for the first hour. So this wasn't exactly how we drew it up, right? Like, hey, we could do skin to skin, and like it was
very
so he was born at like 10 p.m. We didn't get to hold him or it was 11 p.m. something like that. We didn't get to hold him until like 2 a.m. And so again, whether or not that impacted this or not, I don't know. But like that was, so we're back in. If you're I did 3 minutes. Good job, Jeff.
I expected it to go far over.
Yeah, I did too, but I did it in 3 minutes because I didn't want to spend up too much time on it. But it was basically like, hey, this was a scary thing. But look at him, right? That's my son.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a dad though, right? Like, because it's also like I feel like a kid, right? Like that feels like too grown up of a thing, to like, oh, I have a kid, like I feel like a kid myself. Like, how am I supposed to? Right. There's a lyric by that. I'm just a kid myself. How am I supposed to raise one? I forget what the song is from. If anybody knows it, send me a message. I forget what it is. But that's what it felt like. I was like, I'm 20. It was in my late 20s. It was 28, 29, something like that. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's COVID. It's terrifying. I didn't feel like a dad. Mm-hmm. And no matter what I said to myself, that didn't change the fact that I didn't feel like a dad. Mm-hmm. Right? I could have looked in the mirror and be like, you're a dad. Mm-hmm. You are a dad. That is your son out there, and you are a dad, and you need to be dad right now. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't have changed a damn thing. Because I tried it. I had 9 months to prepare for this. Really, my whole life. But I had 9 months certainly to prepare for I'm going to be a dad. And then I'm looking at him, and I don't feel like a dad. Yeah. But then I'm holding his finger when we're in the nursery. He's holding my finger with his little hand. And I'm like Papa Bear Jeff with the nurses, being like, tell me what's happening with my son. Mm-hmm. Right? And then I'm holding him for the first time. We're doing skin to skin. And then I change his diaper for the first time. And then I feed him a bottle. And I walk him out to the car. Just me and Megan. Nobody there. Mm-hmm. I drive home 4 miles an hour.
Very slowly. I remember that from when John did it. I think it took us an hour to get home from Dover.
Yeah. Carry him into the apartment. Mm-hmm. Get him settled in our house. Check his breathing every 45 seconds that entire first night.
Put your finger under the nose.
Yeah. Like, did not sleep a wink. Stayed up with him. Comforted him while he was crying. Woke up early. Woke up in the middle of the night. It was just us for weeks. Nobody could come over to the house. We're just sitting there. It's just the three of us, and we had to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I kept on having to do dad things. Even though I didn't feel like a dad. Mm-hmm. And then what happened? One day, I was like, I felt like a dad.
Yeah.
I became a dad by doing dad things, even when I didn't feel like a dad. Mm-hmm. And then what did I have? This morning, because I keep doing this, right? This keeps going. This morning, it's Valentine's Day. Bring the kids to drop off. Levi's old enough, right? We're doing Valentine's for all the other kids. So he made Valentine's cards at my mother-in-law's house yesterday. Because that's what my mother-in-law does. She does great crafts with him. Yeah. So he made one for all the kids. Like, he made them himself. Little stickers, and signed his name and did the whole thing. And so we're putting them in all the different cubbies. And he's so excited about it. He's like, Daddy, this is so exciting. And then there's a window from their classroom, and you can see out into the parking lot. Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, he likes to, sometimes he'll want to wave at me, and so I'm leaving, and I was like, hey, buddy, have a good day. I love you. And he was like, I love you too, Dad. I was like, do you want to wave at me out the window today? He's like, yeah. Got really excited. And I go around, and I'm about to get in the car, and he like hops up, and he's like fervently waving at me. So excited. And I give him a wave, and I blow him a kiss. He blows one back to me. And I turn around, and I get in the car, and I can still see him. Like, I'm parked. I try to park right out in front of his classroom in case this happens. And I can still see him out the dashboard. And he's still waving at me. And he gives me a big thumbs up. And then turn to drive away. That's what I have as a result of who I am as his dad, which I am as a result of doing the things that I didn't feel like I was capable of doing when I wasn't capable of doing them. And I did them over and over and over again. If your kids get older, the high, right? We've talked about this. The highs are higher, the lows are lower.
Lows are lower.
But you don't get the good without the hard. You don't get the highs. You don't get the things that you can possibly get unless you do the things that you don't want to do when you don't want to do them. There's a great quote from a guy on the internet called The Tired Dad. Is his handle. Got his merch. That's my sweatshirt.
Yeah, you do. I love that
wear
sweatshirt.
The tired. Megan posted it the other day. I got her the tired mom one, and
oh,
it's like
hers
all
is
faded,
like all worn off.
Yeah, and I forget how she phrased it. She said something along the lines of, "When even your tired mom sweatshirt
looks tired."
Looks tired, or it was like, or is fading, or something like that, or is in shambles." Like,
that's
it was
a metaphor, like, if I ever.
Yeah, it was a great metaphor. I forget how she phrased it, but it was really well done. But he says this, and it's really what, like, parenting's only hard for good parents.
Yeah.
And the cliche of, like, anybody can be a father, not everybody can be a dad. Everybody can be a mother, not everybody can be a mom. And the difference is the father and the mother don't do the mom and the dad stuff. And if you don't do the mom and the dad stuff, you don't get to have the things that mom and dad have. It's the thing of, like, you get out what you put in terms of relationships. It's like, you see a lot of people with grandparents and loved ones, and they're like, oh, why don't I have the relationship with your kids or whatever it is that so-and-so has? And it's like, because they show up. Right. They do the thing even when it's not convenient for them. If you do it on your own terms, you're only going to get the outcome that's related to what it is that you put in. But if you do the thing to be grandma or grandpa or auntie or uncle or whatever it is, if you do the thing, if you show up, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's not convenient for you, then you become auntie and uncle. So then you're going to do more things that auntie and uncle, Grammy and grandpa, whatever it is that they have or that they do. And then the more you do that, the more you become that person, the more you have the relationship with the kid. And you get all the good. But you got to do the hard. And you got to do the hard even when you don't feel like doing the hard.
Some days you really don't feel like doing it.
No, you don't. You don't. But there's so many things that we do even when we don't feel like doing it. Like waking up in the middle of the night with a screaming kid, like I had to do twice last night.
Yeah.
At midnight, I'm exhausted. Change kid. He's like, I have a poop. And I'm like, change. You don't have a poop. But he was like, he was convinced he had a poop. So I had to change his diaper at midnight. I'm like exhausted. And then the other kid, 2 hours later, wakes up because Megan's sick. Right. So I got to go into it. It's like, I don't want to do this. That's dad stuff. Right. And I do it. Now it's not even a question.
Right. Second nature now.
Now it's instinct. Now it's who I am.
Right.
To do it. You're not going to get motivated until you do it when you're not motivated. So I told you I would bring it back full circle here. So I'm going to bring it back full circle.
I'm ready.
I have, so this is an interesting thing. I've started posting all the stuff that I post on Instagram on TikTok because, why not? Doesn't take me any extra effort to post it on TikTok. I just post it on TikTok. Right. But then you can't just like post and ghost, right? You got to like be there for a minute. And so it's very funny to see the difference in my algorithms on TikTok and Instagram, like the things that I interact with. So somehow I have gotten onto the corner of TikTok that is like, which is not actually very odd, but it's like moms who want to like take care of their house, basically, which is like somewhat adjacent to like, hey, get cleaner or whatever it is.
Sure.
Right? Like be more organized and that sort of thing. Mel
Mhm.
Robbins, if you know who Mel Robbins is.
Is he the guy with the teeth?
Mel Robbins is a woman. So no.
Who's the guy with the teeth?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll figure it out. My corner of I'm too old for TikTok, but my corner of Instagram is mostly dogs and cooking. And it's great.
So my Instagram algorithm is very different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, than my TikTok one. But again, I started my TikTok, I don't know, a couple months ago. And so it's just like responding to what it is that I'm interacting with. So there's a I forget her name.
Tony Robbins is the guy with
Tony
the teeth.
Robbins. Oh my gosh. No.
Big, huge teeth.
Mel Robbins is a woman.
Okay.
She had a book called Let Them.
Oh, yes. Okay.
She's the Let
Have we
Them
talked about
girl.
this?
No. We could talk about it at some point. Maybe we have. I don't remember. But there's another woman out there who's a mom who's basically like, stop living in filth, basically. Like, take care of your life, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
To like calling out moms like, hey, clean up your crap, basically. And so she's like morning routine, like develop this thing to like open the shades and do the whatever, right? So this is the corner of TikTok that I'm on right now.
Here's my theory, though. I think that your neighbor secretly hacked into your Instagram or your TikTok account so that you would remember to bring your trash cans in.
Yeah.
I think that's
what it is.
I think that's what it is. I think I just solved it.
Yeah.
I should have been a detective.
You should.
I could work with Richard Castle.
There you go. So no. So I did have that a little bit in my head where I was like, she's not wrong. Like I should bring these in, right? Like so it was also like I don't have the ability, and I'm going to circle back to that in a minute. But because that is actually linked to the story. But she's posting like, hey, like, you know, have some structure to your day. Right. And then I went into the comments section because it's always funny for me to look at the comments section.
Hysterical.
Especially on TikTok. Right. It's like Instagram is more like people are angry. TikTok is more like lighthearted for the most part. But people were in there and they were like, people with ADHD, this isn't for us. And I'm like,
accurate. Object permanence, man.
Right. But somebody else but these were the top 3 comments were like, I have a chronic illness. I can't do this. Right. I have ADHD. I can't do this. I have an autoimmune disorder. I can't do this. I was like, these are the top 3 comments. And my thing on it was maybe a little bit of an odd take because again, they were trying to be lighthearted about it. But my thing on it was this, because she basically said what it is that I was saying, which is like, you're never going to be motivated. You're never going to have energy. If you're waiting for magic energy to come, it's never going to come.
Right.
So you got to just do it when you don't have energy. Maybe you'll get some from doing it, but you're certainly not going to just get a magic lightning bolt of energy. Like it would have happened already. So you get a lot of people who are like, no, I can't do this. Right. Or this is a common comment that I see is like, I could never. Right. Like I could never do XYZ, whatever it is that the person is doing. Like somebody's being really productive on them, like really productive morning routine. They're like, I did more before 8 a.m. than you'll do in a day sort of thing. And people are like, I could never, whatever, wake up early or whatever the thing is. And I had this conversation with a client because she was having a hard time setting aside time for exercise. And I was just spitballing different ideas. And she was like, well, I don't want to do that because of this reason. I don't want to do that because of this reason. I don't want to do that because of this reason. I don't want to give up this thing or that thing or this thing. I could never. What's something that you thought you'd never do that now you do?
Me?
You or just in general, the audience?
Have a child.
Yeah.
I didn't think I wanted kids.
I think there's any number of things that if we look at our life 10 years ago, us would be like, I could never do that. And now we're doing it. 10 years ago, Jeff, 10 years ago, Jeff was still convinced he was going to be Mr. Feeney. 10 years ago,
Mr.
if you told 10 years ago,
Yeah.
Jeff, you're going to run a business and you're going to coach people on running businesses and be like actually fairly good at sales strategies and perspectives and all of these things, like you'd be pretty good at that, I would have laughed in your face. I was throwing Barbies off of bleachers attached to rubber bands. I was putting Mentos in Diet Coke and trying to see how the geyser went. That's what I was doing 10 years ago. I could never run my own business. I could never. I could never be good at sales. I could never post on Instagram 5 days a week for 3 years straight.
That's a lot.
I could never do that. I hate social media. I would never post on social media. I would never. I could never. This isn't for me. You've made your identity centered around this thing. And the problem that I find, and this is where the neighbor interaction is what it bothered me about it, was that people take their own stuff and project it onto other people. You see a fit person who's 28 years old with no kids, be like, oh, and you go to the comments section, is, oh, just wait till you have kids. I could never take the time to work out like that. Or it must be nice to do XYZ. I get it all the time. Oh, it must be nice to have fitness be your job. Must be nice to have a paycheck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It must be nice to have health insurance.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? Like, don't take your crap and project it on other people. If you want something that somebody else has, one, you don't have to bring them down for it.
Right.
But two, maybe look at their life and recognize that there was a point in time where they didn't have it. Must be nice. Must be nice genetics. And like, I kind of like these posts. I kind of don't like them where it's like, oh, look at the genetics, right? And they do the like, oh, it must be nice genetics. And then they like, oh, the good luck or whatever. And then they show themselves working out a bunch. I kind of like those. I kind of don't, right? But I like the idea of calling out people for being like, oh, you just got it handed to you. No. Everybody who's in good shape had the first time in the gym. Everybody who's ever been in the gym, when you go into the gym and they're like, oh man, they really know what they're doing. They've been there for a while. They went there for the first time once too. It might have been younger than you. It might not have came in the same spot as you. It might not have been dealing with the same challenges as you, but everybody made a decision that they were going to become something different because they wanted what that type of person would have. And so what did they do? They did the damn thing that that type of person would do. And they just did it over and over again. Even though they didn't feel like it, even though they weren't that person yet, they decided to not shout affirmations in the mirror and not throw spitballs from the cheap seats at somebody else, but say, you know what? I want what that person has. So let me maybe, just maybe, look at who they are as a person and figure out what it is that they're doing to get the thing that they have that I don't. I could never. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you could.
Never.
No, you could.
No, but you can't. You won't ever, unless you decide to not be limited by they just got it handed to them. I could never leave my trash bins out overnight. Couldn't you?
I have done it many a time.
Right? Like that, but I'm willing to bet that's like, there's no way that she sends that message if she's like, I could never be so inconsiderate to leave my trash bins out in the middle of the road, right? In the middle of the road. She makes it grandiose. In the middle of the road during a snowstorm. I could never do that. Could you run your own business and have 3 kids 18 months apart, 4 to 3, while your wife has the flu? Could you do that?
Could you keep your damn dog in your damn yard?
Yeah.
Could you do that?
Well, so I'm not going to go that direction, but like that's the thing that I'm dealing with, right? Now, was my problem with what she said what it was? No, she's right. I needed to bring my bins in. She's not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to bring my bins in. She was right. But it was the fact that it's coming from, I know there's no way that message gets sent if it's not somebody who's making an assumption about my identity.
Mm-hmm.
I must not care. Must not care about other people. I must not care about my house. If you looked at my yard in the fall, you would have been like, just in shambles. I didn't mow my grass for 6 weeks.
Well, that's good for your grass.
No, I mean,
in the fall, you want to let the grass seeds grow and then fall, so it's
but it was all dead and like eaten up by crows and all of the stuff because there was grubs and everything. It was just not in good shape. It was not in good shape. If you looked at my grass, you'd be like unkempt, which I hated. I hated it. You know me, like my little, like I hated it. When was I going to have the time to mow my grass on the weekends? What was happening in the fall? My wife was shooting weddings and editing, working all the damn time. It wasn't a priority. And so I decided to make something else a priority. So it's fine if you decide that you don't want to make it a priority. That's fine. You get to make that choice. But if you want to have something, you have to start with your identity, but you don't just change your identity by deciding you're going to change your identity. You change your identity by showing up and doing the thing, even though you don't feel like doing the thing.
Nice.
Because you're right. You're never going to have the energy. You're never going to have the motivation. It's never going to be easy. It's not. Until you do it. And then it's not going to require motivation. It's just going to be what you do because it's who you are. So if you want to change, if you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. But if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. So if you want something different, do different. And if you don't, then you don't get to complain. You don't get to complain. Does that feel good?
I felt really good. Yeah.
Good place to end it.
I think
Getting
so.
more efficient with these.
It's very
and
impressed.
We had a couple stories in there too.
Yeah. Very impressed with this.
But again, not upset with my neighbor because she told me to bring in my bins. She was right. I need to bring in my bins. But where you get in that, like, and where that challenged me, honestly, was why didn't I bring them in? Why didn't I do the thing? And again, there's a lot of reasons why, but I have to wrestle with that. But at the end of the day, like, just worry about your own self. And if you want something that somebody else has, look at their life. Who do they identify as and what do they do? Are you willing to do it? If not, then move on. But you don't need to say anything. Like, that's why those comments are like, I have a chronic illness. This isn't for me. And I'm like, I mean, I'm sorry to hear that. But like, you don't need to belittle what she's talking about in that instance. Like, it doesn't have to be about you. It just doesn't have to be about you. That's my take. But be the person to have the thing. You got to do the thing that person would do. Appreciate y'all listening. Do all the things that you do. Like, rate, subscribe, share it with a friend. All the things. Appreciate you being here. See you next time.
Bye.